So welcome back inside reacting to some scary story animations. Two of them in this video I've actually seen personally, and I haven't seen them in a while, and I wanted to see if I get scared by them again, because these two videos by LlamaArts and the one we're actually going to watch first by Let's Read scared the absolute out of me when I first watched them, and I'm talking about really scared. Matter of fact, I avoided like LlamaArts for a bit because of that one video. It was 4 years ago. I think I was in grade 6. But I want to watch it again to see if I get scared shitless like I did back then. So, but the first one is 10 2-sentence horror story animated, and like I said, it's by Let's Read. So, without further ado, let's get it.
Number 10.
Oh, I'm excited for this one.
Sarah!
A girl heard her mom yell her name from downstairs. So she got up and started to head down.
Sarah!
As she got to the stairs, her mom pulled her into her room and said,
I heard it too.
Hex no! Get the shotty!
Stay in here and don't make a sound.
Like hex no!
Nah, you know he did.
Y'all better have headphones on. If you don't, you ain't getting the full experience like everyone else is. Like, fuck no, man. Like, no.
Man, I'm dead.
Just got bitch slapped. That's a wrap for her. That's a wrap for her. Bruh, Let's Read is a very great narrator, man. I love his voice. Pause. But I love your voice, man. Alright, so we're gonna leave the scariest animation I've like watched to the last video, so it's like, you know, a good build up. But this next one is called The Neighbor's House, and this one is by the legendary Wansee Entertainment. The next two videos are by Wansee Entertainment, so videos down below, link down below. I know they have more subscribers, but I still like to credit them even if their channel's bigger than me. It's just they deserve the respect for the art they've created. Anyway, let's get it.
This is something that happened to me a few years ago.
By the way,
when I was living with
the
my
two
family
Wansee
next to
videos
a
I
neighbor
haven't seen
who
this
had
one,
a
so.
very old house. Every day I would play with my cousins and little brother in my backyard. We could always see the neighbor watering her plants.
What you looking at?
She had a pond in her yard where the
Mind
ducks
your
she
own
owned
business.
could joyfully swim. We'd occasionally see her feeding them when she was tending to her yard. One day, her ducks went missing. We tried to help her find them, but weren't able to. There weren't any wild animals in our neighborhood, if you don't count stray cats. But there's no way cats would have eaten these big ducks. Around that same time, my grandma would tell me that there was a girl
Bro, why
in
is
a
she
red
peeking
dress
through the window
always
like
walking
that?
on the roof of my neighbor's house at 3 a.m., but it's only there for an hour. I didn't believe it at first, but my neighbor kept experiencing strange mishaps. One time, while I was playing with my little brother, I heard a scream.
That's a wrap
I
for
looked
her,
over the
bro.
neighbor's fence to see if everything was okay. When I did, what I saw was horrifying. By the pond, there used to be a pile of regular sticks, but this time, there was a stack of bloody bones and skulls instead. I looked from the
Pack
pile
your
back
shit and
to
get
my
out of there,
neighbor,
man.
who was standing there frozen. When I looked back at the pile, I could see that there were bugs
Ew.
and crawling here and there on the bones. And the smell. There was a putrid smell carried on the soft breeze to my nose. It made me sick to my stomach. Fortunately, my brother was too short to see over the fence.
Oh, good.
Even though he wanted to see for himself, I did not let him. I didn't want him to be traumatized like me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed, the image and smell of the pile of bones still vivid in my mind.
Would they really
I
be that
glanced
bad
over
there?
at
Like
the
a pile of
clock
bones?
after
You
a
lucky it was
while.
like a pile.
It was
like, you lucky it wasn't a
12:59
pile of
a.m.
flesh. Shit.
Just as the clock switched to 3 a.m., I heard two metal objects banging
I don't know how
in my
bad it would be.
backyard. There was a window in my room, so I got out of bed and walked over to it, trying to see what the noise was. I was horrified to see a girl in a red dress walking on the fence. Her hair was dark and very crazy. Her skin was pale, and from where I was standing, I couldn't see her eyes. Just as
Y'all
I
already know what
started to
time it
wonder
is.
how she could walk on the fence like that, I realized that she had two horns coming out of each of her feet.
Oh.
I was frozen in place.
Why are you looking at her
unsure what to
toes,
do.
though?
Just then, she let out a horrifying scream and jumped into my backyard, landing on all fours. She twisted her neck and looked directly
Never
at
mind,
the
get the
area I was
RPG!
standing in front of.
Get the
That's when I
RPG!
thought. Her eyes weren't there. No eyelids. Nothing. Just dark and empty sockets. In an instant, she rushed to my window, and when she got to
Heck
it, she
no!
started banging on the window like she was trying to break it. I fell back away from the window, captured by absolute fear. I screamed, but no one seemed to hear me. She kept scratching and banging at the window,
She's gonna wake up.
screaming this awful, gut-wrenching scream.
Oh.
I couldn't move, but I could now see, as I stared directly where her eyes should be, that her eye sockets were full of this thick,
no.
black liquid, and there were insects
Heck
crawling
no,
in and
man.
out of the gross liquid. The entire encounter felt like it took only a few minutes, but when she disappeared, and I no longer felt frozen in place, I looked around and noticed that it was now 4 a.m. I was stuck there in terror for an entire hour.
Bruh, she's
Just like
definitely
my
seen through
grandmother
some
said,
stuff, bruh.
It disappeared at exactly 4 a.m. At this point, I was shaking so badly that it was almost painful. I tried to go back to sleep, but I couldn't. I will never forget that night, especially her face. I will remember
Back
that
out of my
horrifying
face.
sight until the day I take my last breath.
Oh, I thought she was about to say something else. Gosh damn. Oh my. This is why I have curtains, man. Like, ain't no way you gonna be catching my ass looking out the window at like 3 a.m., bro. Like, man. Alright, this next one is called Crazy Man Horror Story Animated, and this one again is by Wansee Entertainment. So, also, I am a bit sick right now, but my voice is a different story. My friends won an award for their films the other night, and all of us screamed when they, won it, so I screamed very loudly. So, shout out to you guys. Love y'all. Alright, anyway,
A night person who likes to jog around my neighborhood at night. I did the same on this day around 13 years ago. I changed into my sweatshirt around 9 p.m. and went outside for a run. As I ran outside, I enjoyed taking the cool night air into my lungs.
Get busy.
I suddenly heard footsteps from somewhere and turned toward where I thought the sound was coming from. I could see a man coming towards me.
Whoa,
swinging
back
his
up!
arms.
Back up! Back
It
up!
was Nicholas, one of my neighbors. He had one
Oh,
hand
no.
on his neck, and his white t-shirt was stained with blood. I was surprised and asked him what was going on, and he shouted,
My blood!
He then
I can see
collapsed
that.
on the ground, bleeding from his neck. I slowly approached him with hesitancy and saw
Yeah.
another man at the entrance of Nicholas's house. He was dancing behind the collapsed Nicholas.
What's this
The
called
man
again?
was wearing a
Crazy
weird
Man Horror
costume,
Story?
like a red cape.
This ain't no
He
vampire
looked
story.
at me, brightly smiled, and yelled.
You won't
By the way, I love the
die
art style.
because
Like,
I haven't
sheesh.
drunk too much.
It's amazing.
Then he laughed and rushed off into the darkness. I supported Nicholas and panicked because I had no idea what was happening.
My
He
ass
was half
blew.
fainted and said,
Oh, he's still alive.
That bastard sucked all my blood.
Oh, pause.
pale. and
Pause.
I called the police, and the strange man in the red cape had already ran away by the time the police arrived. The officers left to track him down. Nicholas was later transferred to the hospital, where they expected him to die from excessive bleeding. A few days later, his testimony to the police was released, and it was shocking. On the night of the incident, someone knocked on the door while he was alone at home. He opened the door, and a man said he was thirsty and asked for something to drink. When Nicholas tried to give him water, the man said,
There are no nutrients in water. The ones I need are in your body.
Y'all remember my my Watson Scott test video? If not, I button right there. I really hope I remember to add that in. If not, spam me in the comments. Anyway, there's a question about that where a lady was at the door asking for help, and you would either, I forgot what the options were, but I said close the door, call the police, and like wait inside and tell her to wait on the balcony. Exact same thing here, man. Like, you want some water, either I'm gonna tell you where the closest fountain is or something like that, or if you're really that desperate, you look desperate, because that guy didn't really look thirsty, I will tell you to wait outside, close the door, tell him to back up, close the door, get him a glass of water, tell him to keep the cup when I give it to him, and then be on my merry way. Ain't no way someone's sucking my blood.
And forcibly climbed up Nicholas's body, pulling out an iron straw to
Get off
suck
me!
blood from
Get
his
off me!
neck. When the police heard Nicholas's testimony at first, they said it was an unbelievable claim. However, the police began tracking the culprits,
Wow,
and
that's
several
a lot
pieces
of
of
blood.
evidence were found in his
Holy.
home. Not long after the tracking, the police caught the culprit, a crazy man who claimed to be a vampire. His straw was made of iron, and the tip was as sharp as a knife. He had assaulted people in the middle of the night, sneaking inside the alleyways, sucking their blood, and leaving. Then, he became bold enough to enter another person's house. He said that he thought Nicholas's blood would be very delicious as soon as he saw Nicholas's face, and he was right. He also told the police that he should choose his object carefully, since each human has a different taste in blood, and selecting the wrong person with unfavorable blood does not quench his thirst at all. He then reportedly smiled at the police officer and said,
Mr. Policeman, your blood must be salty and sour. Let me suck your blood a sip, and I'll tell you my secret.
The police got angry with him, and the man proudly said that he had sucked the blood of more than 50 people. The man eventually ended up in prison.
Still
and
with the
Nicholas
uniform on.
suffered severe trauma for some time. He lived in his house plastered with crosses and moved to another city altogether at the end.
Valid, man.
However,
Valid.
10 years later, a rumor began that a vampire had again assaulted the village. As I thought of it,
Oh, man.
I wondered if the crazy man had just been released from prison. One day, while jogging at night,
Still
I heard
jogging at
something
night.
fluttering behind me, and I looked back. There was a man, and he had a cape on, flapping in the wind, running like crazy toward me. I was so
Put
startled
your
that I
shoes in
fell
fucking
to the
run
ground,
mode and
and he pulled out a very large, long iron straw.
oh, heck no. Where's the gun at? Stay strapped!
I felt the fear of
Can't
death
yell.
hit him hard.
Yeah.
He groaned and fell to the ground.
Whoa,
and he
he
said to
old.
me as he
He
pointed
old.
the sharp straw right at me.
I've always wondered what your blood tastes like.
He stabbed a straw in my arm, and my blood gushed out. He then put his mouth
I didn't
on my
blur that,
arm
by
to
the way!
I punched him.
I
in the
didn't blur
face,
that, by the
but
way.
He kept sucking my blood, even though he got hit.
Really?
I instantly
You
felt
ain't hitting
drained
hard
as
enough
the
that-
blood left from my body, and I was terrified. I kept punching him in the face until he fell backward in pain. I ran away as fast as I could, and he shouted at me from behind.
Your blood tastes like peanut butter. I'll come back to suck your blood again next time.
This guy really likes the taste of iron.
I
Y'all
ran
ever,
away
like,
from
cut
him
your lip?
and called
Some
the
shit like
police.
that?
He was arrested and put in jail again. That
then,
seems
like,
to
you
be
taste
the
the,
end of my
like,
horrific
iron?
nightmare. But every night, I am terrified that he will appear again one day, and I still have the scar from his straw on my arm.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy.
Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant.
Sucker, who the frick you think you are?
2 seconds later.
Describe myself as a kind of a freedom fighter. My very first character was a Minotaur character.
Woo!
It just seemed like the coolest, you know.
Regretfully, the last one. I'm scared. I'm honestly scared. This story made me scared to like. Hey, all I gotta think about is it's not Christmas. It's not Christmas. Bro, I'm scared. This story is called Creepy Christmas Time Story Animated by LlamaArts. I have seen this one before in the past, like I've stated. Just gotta make sure y'all know so you don't think I'm faking a reaction. And it scared the living shit out of me. I watched this back in, I think, 6th grade? Yep, grade 6. Oh, I was going into grade 7, but I'm not ready for this, honestly. Like, I've avoided going back to watch this for nostalgia. No joke. Put them headphones on. There's no loud jump scares. I think. But put them headphones on, because you're in for a ride.
It was November of 2006. I was a 16-year-old kid living in the town of Altoona, Iowa. I went to bed early one night because I had to work the early shift.
I'm so nervous. I'm like twitching,
As
bro.
I slept, I had a dream that I was running through downtown Des Moines, but I wasn't on a jog. I was running from something. As I ran around the corner of a building,
I have
came
shivers.
face to face with my pursuer. A tall man wearing a trench coat and a top hat
Like,
stood in front of me.
Look at him!
The only thing visible of his face was his
No.
eyes. They were abnormally large with black pupils, and it looked at me as if it wanted something. After what felt like hours, he reached out his bony hand, as if he wanted me to go with him. I woke up violently from my dream, and after catching my breath, I peered around my room to see if I was safe. As I stood up from my bed, I noticed that I could see my breath. Feeling confused, I checked my window. It was latched shut. I then walked over and checked my vent. I could still feel warm air coming from it. As I sat back down on my bed, I tried to figure out what exactly was going on. That's when the figure from my dream
really fucking
appeared at the
nervous.
foot of my bed.
Like, heck
I
no!
scrambled back to my headboard.
Like,
What do you want?
I don't even know what I'd do then.
asked,
Like, look at him!
shakiness in my voice. With the same bony finger, it pointed at me. Growing up in a religious home, I believed what I was looking at was a demon. I told the creature to leave. It just waved its finger at me, and with a low voice, it spoke to me.
Never leave. Always here.
The creature then screamed loudly and disappeared. A feeling of nausea came over me, and I vomited on my floor. The last thing I remember was cleaning myself up and waking up to my alarm. It's been about a month since I had seen the top hat wearing man in my bedroom. The Christmas season was in full effect. My parents weren't home because they got invited to some kind of event, so it was only me and my 3 sisters at home. I had to wake up early in the morning for work, so I decided to go to sleep. I rested my head on my pillow and closed my eyes. Not even 30 seconds passed until my sisters burst into my room and started singing obnoxious songs. This of course made me very angry.
I remember this
But I
part.
thought if I ignored them that they would leave me alone. This was not the case. As I pulled the blankets over my head, I started to feel the same cold feeling that I had in November. As the obnoxious singing subsided, I lowered the blanket below my eyes and saw the man standing in the corner of my room. In one swift motion, he charged towards me.
Like, what are you doing?
Down.
Like, what are you doing?
When I finally came
Like, what are
to,
you doing in that
I found
situation,
my
man?
sisters had locked themselves inside the bathroom. As I knocked on the door, they told me to go away. I asked them what happened, and all they could say was Mom and Dad were on their way home. I looked down and saw that my hand was slightly bloody. Holes were in the bathroom door, and a broom was sticking out of the wall. I then walked into the living room and found that there were knives stuck into the wall as well. The same wave of nausea passed over me, just like in November, and I threw up again. As I was cleaning up, my parents walked through the door. My father immediately walked over to me and gave me a good beating. Then he sent me to my room. I went to bed crying, not from the beating.
Because he was
I was
confused.
crying because of the confusion.
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
had no idea what was going on. The next morning, my sisters reluctantly sat next to me and told me what had happened. They said I got angry and chased them down and tried to hurt them. They said my eyes were red to the point where they thought I was bleeding from them. They said I sounded like a different person. In 2011, that was the last time I saw the top hat wearing man. I just moved into a new apartment, and after a long, stressful day of unpacking, I took a shower and got ready for bed. As I started to drift off, I could feel that cold feeling again.
My heart would
I
sink.
lifted my head and saw the man standing in front of me.
The man's eyes were red now. With a low voice, just like on that November night, it looked at me and said,
Never leave. Always here.
This animation has truly been the only one to really scare the shit out of me. I mean, literally scared the living shit out of me. It didn't have an effect as it did on me as obviously when I was 11, because I'm now older, more mature. But this is still terrifying. I hate it. I hate it.